Welcome to this month's edition of What's New in Digital. And today we have a special guest. We're going to be speaking with Danny. And Danny told me before we hit record, this is his first ever podcast interview.
Yeah, first one. And do you say special guests for every one of your guests? Is that how you tee it up for everyone?
Never.
Oh, okay. All right.
I've never used that line before.
Well, I feel very special. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're going to have a little bit of a different angle on this month's What's New in Digital, and it's going to be more around revenue generation, and it's going to go in a few different directions. But before they do that, Danny, how about you give a little bit of your background and just go right into tip number one for us?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Andrew, thanks again for having me. A big fan of No Typical Moments. For the past 6 years, I've been the senior vice president of sales and marketing for a mid-sized company based in New York. And I was in charge of revenue growth. We had a team of about 70 people in our department. And, overall, I was responsible for the firm's competitiveness on a global scale. So I'm happy to talk to you today and give a few tips on kind of what we were seeing late Q4 2022 and even here early 2023 about, the economy is, I guess, shaky, right? Some people might say that we're going into a recession, and that clearly makes for really challenging selling environments, whether you're a business owner that is doing the sales calls yourself, or you have a sales team that's working with clients. The selling environment is changing. It's becoming difficult. And so I just wanted to share a few things that I've observed over the last couple of months, and maybe some things that you could do about it in terms of preparation. So that's kind of what I had in store today. If that sounds good to you?
Yep, let's go right into number one.
Yeah, cool. So the first thing, and I don't want to scare anyone with this, it's really good to be aware of and plan around. We're seeing what we call pipeline slippage, right? So more leads that you might have in your queue won't convert into actual paying customers. We had a formula at my former employer, and the formula was, if you needed to win 10 deals that month, we had a 2.5x lead multiplier. So essentially, you needed 25 deals or leads in your pipeline to close the 10 wins. So what I mean by pipeline slippage is we were extending that to 30 because we knew that 2.5x wasn't going to be able to hit the forecast, the expectations that we needed on a revenue end. So we needed to put more emphasis on lead generation and qualifying leads to go from that 10 to 30 mark. And we saw that across multiple products and multiple markets that we were in. So pipeline slippage is going to be something that maybe most businesses are going to face throughout 2023. So just be aware of, you might be able to need to reconfigure, recalibrate your forecasting, your expectations, how you're thinking about your pipeline to adjust for some of those lead slippages going through your sales process. So I would say that's tip number one.
Let me ask you this question. What if someone is listening and they don't even know how many leads they generate on a monthly basis, what their close percentage is? What advice should you have to even start to identify that number, so then you can raise it by 10, 20%, whatever that slippage is going to entail?
Yeah, I would recommend any business, no matter what size you are, you're starting out versus multi-billion-dollar business, to have a process in place that tracks formulas from leads to sales, because you're not going to be able to really figure out or forecast what that projection could be on revenue side. And then it also has implications on the budgetary side too. So I would encourage anyone that has a B2B sales process, that is working with clients, on the phone with clients, to be able to measure that, track that, and then obviously put the tools in place to continue to improve it going forward. That's the only way that you'll be able to start hitting the revenue targets that you desire.
What's tip number two?
Well, tip number two would be, or trend number two really, is we started noticing that higher levels of management were inspecting deals that they usually weren't not expecting. So if you're selling something for $10,000 and you're selling it to the decision maker, maybe at the director level or VP level, over the course of the last couple of months, we started seeing executive team members start showing up on sales conversations, start really examining the deal structure, start weighing in on that, being part of the negotiation process. And that was brand new, really, that we started spotting that back in October, November area. And so what that means and what you can do around that is make sure that you continue to have all your credibility pieces in play as you're going through the proposal stage, as you're going through the conversation stage, because executives really care about, okay, what have you done for other people that look like our business, and how quickly were you able to get the results? I have a limited budget. I have to safeguard this budget, and I need to make sure that I'm buying with confidence. And so all those credibility pieces come into play at a higher scale, in my opinion, because that's what the executives are looking for: fast starts, quick wins, and who else have you done this for, and how fast can you start moving for us? And so that kind of, in the context of price, that helps with executive level inspection of deals.
Let's talk a little bit about pricing. And there's so much psychology around premium offers, discounts, so on and so forth. Can you talk a little bit more around advice you have on pricing methodology?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of making sure that you speak confidently and share the value of what you're selling, whether it's a product or service, and really continue to have that consultative sales process and really emphasize the results and the return on investment. Do I say you need to be inflexible on pricing? No, I think there needs to be some flexibility and some give and take, but you have to continue to sell that value confidently, because people want to buy the value, they want to buy the outcomes, and having that why in their pain point will always help you sell at a higher price point.
So we were on a call a few days ago, and I sent you a Slack note afterwards, and I felt like there needed to be a little bit more chutzpah in our, and at least my attitude back. And I felt that from the CEO. I thought he was testing us a little bit to see how we would counter some of his points that I thought he was making very confidently and boldly. Can you talk a little bit more around that psychology of sometimes that pushback from the executive? They might actually be looking for you to push back on them to see that chutzpah you may have and your confidence of your ideas.
That's exactly right. And I think his question was, that price surprises me, right? Something like that. Was that his
Correct.
comment? And so objections are completely normal in the entire sales process. Actually, salespeople, anyone in a sales conversation, should be excited about having an objection, because that to me tells me that the person on their line is interested. They just need a few more facts or to clarify a few more things. And there's ways that you can handle objections, and maybe I can share my 3 tips on how to handle objections as a giveaway to the audience here. But to your point, if an executive is there and wanting to kind of test the boundaries, they're doing so maybe not so because they're price sensitive, but they're trying to see the confidence level that you have, because they're thinking about how they're going to work with you, and if they can trust you and if they can believe in you. So having a confident response as you gave, which we ended up winning that deal, which was not surprising, I think is a true test of character that most people are just trying to kind of push the buttons on. So staying clear, staying confident, going back into, we've been doing this before, here's the results we've got from other people, that's why we carry this price tag, is always a good lever to pull in those types of pushbacks.
Let's go to trend number 3.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about like who's going to win in 2023, and how do you win, right? And when it comes to sales. So I think as the economy shifts and concern around that about pricing and extra competition, I also think there's going to be the sales cycle, whether you have a 2-month sales cycle or a 3-month sales cycle. I think you're going to see duration in the pipeline. I think if the normal sales cycle is 3 months, I think you should expect, and management should expect it to be 4 or 5 months. So I think the sales cycle length is also going to be increasing. throughout this. So, but really, what the message I want to convey to your group here, to your community, is, in a world where especially everyone is receiving webinar invites, everyone's receiving emails nowadays. In the last couple of weeks, everyone's receiving AI generated messages, and nobody is standing out. And so the question is, how does someone in sales stand out, right? And to me, it's the small things, the human things, the unscalable things that will have you winning more deals. It's the listening with intention, it's being empathetic, it's going the extra mile. I say this all the time. A simple handwritten note goes a long way. You might not get a reply from the handwritten note, but that person on the other end that received it made a mental note saying that's a good person, that's someone who went above and beyond just to engage me. So I think it's all about the little things in 2023 that will actually be a competitive advantage for anyone in sales. And those are the types of salespeople that are going to win in an economic decline.
Going back to the sales cycle point, so we are in a live launch, spent a considerable amount of money, and what we realized in analyzing their buying cycle is it's usually about a 3-month process for them. So in a live launch, condensing that into a short window is super challenging. And the CEO had said, I don't care, it's going to be 3 weeks. I don't care if the data says it's 3 months, we have to make this 3 weeks to hit my revenue goals. So what is a way to handle that conversation with a CEO, that executive who just has expectations that are completely unrealistic, and even the negative ramifications you might have from some of those buyers of creating such a pressure cooker environment that you have to buy now and you're rushing them along perhaps a little too quickly?
Yeah, I think it comes down to clear communication and with confidence. I can't imagine if you advise the client that's saying, hey, the normal process is 2 to 3 months, and he's saying 2 to 3 weeks. And there's some like go get them distortion of reality piece to it. And of course, if you're on the fulfillment team, you're going to try to do your best if that's what's like the goal from the client side. But I think clear documentation in your communication, saying this is what our expectations are, this is how the forecast is built. So you have that to go back to and be like, remember, we talked about this. If something goes off the rails, right, and he feels a sense of disappointment, because I think that's also a learning curve and an opportunity to provide more of a partnership advisory role to your client, saying, okay, we didn't get it done in 3 weeks. Here were the wins that we did get done in 3 weeks. Here's what we talked about over a 3-month period. Now that we've learned this, let's take this back into our next approach and really be that partner for them, because it's not an I told you so movement. It's more of an opportunity to have a conversation around here's how we actually hit your goals in a regular timeline or a fast-paced timeline. So it's all about communication, being confident with that, and not in documenting all the changes as you go through it, because CEOs are going to get that. Every CEO I know, including yourself, you're ambitious, you work hard, you have high expectations, you want things done faster, but patience sometimes pays off, and getting it right and getting the story right and the details right may have a maximum return on investment. You just have to wait the extra couple months. So I think that's the story, that's the conversation you might want to have with them.
And when you are wanting to say, I told you so to the executive, that's when you pull out your journal, write down what you truly want to say, and then send your email saying, Kai, so-and-so, great to hear from you.
So that's the time where you just put the keyboard down and you sleep on it, right? That's the emotional response that you want to give right away. But no, I'm just going to let this breathe for a little bit, do some journaling, do some meditation, come back in the morning, and then send a thoughtful, professional response. Yes, because and I know what you mean. They're heated moments, they're emotional moments too.
Well, perfect, Danny. Very much appreciative of your 3 tips and trends, and you did great on your first podcast episode.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.